All right. The video store was never closed. The video store has always been open. We've just been super busy at the video store, which good things. I mean, I guess that's good, but like not great for people that listen to our podcast.
Sorry about that. It was a crazy ending to 2025.
Yeah, so goes life, right?
For both of us. Yeah,
it is what it is. My name is Eli, one of the co-owners of Top Shelf Video.
And I would be Jaime, proud brother of my co-host.
We hit the holiday. I think the last episodes it was right around my birthday, and had a lot of. It was a good ending to the year, but at the same time, it was very busy and lots of family stuff, but also like good holiday stuff, and then having to run the shop. Like everybody wants their videos over the holiday break, which is good. We're happy to recommend and have stuff that people can use as an alternate to streaming services, because or at least we very much believe in the physical media, thus the video store.
Oh yeah,
but
yep. I'm starting to have I have a small collection in my garage now that I actually want to see if I can find a weekend that I'm free that I can meet up with some of the Austin VHS swap people. See if I can find something to carry over up to the Dallas VHS swap when I'm up there next time you have one.
Yeah, so. Which will actually probably be here pretty soon. We haven't had one since December. But we'll probably round out February or early March with a VHS swap. But yeah, we just wanted to touch base with everybody, give everybody a little bit of an update, and start prepping for season 3. I guess we didn't have a finalized sort of season 2, but like I said, it is what it is. But we're still here and we're still around. But yeah, I thought maybe we'd sort of touch base with each other on what we're kind of thinking, and some other things that I've kind of got cooking that we'll try to get to this year. But yeah, I thought we would just kind of do a quick recap of just last year. I think last year I think we kind of went all over the map, or all over the video store, I guess, map, you could say. In that, I think we tend to hit a lot of the things that, we sort of have grown up with on and off, but then also there were a couple things there that like maybe were adjacent to some of the stuff that was coming out. Like I know we talked about Crossroads, and that was because I had seen that movie Sinners last year. That was like really good. That had to do with like the whole devil went down to Georgia, even though I guess that's where is that? It takes place in Mississippi, or both. I think both Sinners and Crossroads take place like in Mississippi, like in the Delta. So it was cool to kind of It was cool to go back to see Crossroads again with like thinking I had really heard the name Steve Vai in a long while. And his guitar fingering, picking sort of expert I don't know what you would call him, like a savant, I guess, of like the era of us
amazing.
Growing up.
Yeah. That was
Steve.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, because I remember being into. I mean, and it's the funny thing is I never got into guitars, but there was a period of time where we were we were listening to Joe Satriani, Steve Vai. I mean, I had who's some other ones. I mean, I was big into like Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eric Johnson, but I never. I mean, I kind of just. We kind of fell off the musical. We only have, our one brother who stayed in the music realm as an adult. But you and I just have a big appreciation for music. So,
right.
I think I would have remembered that movie a little bit more had I realized that was Steve Vai in the movie, because I think I never put 2 and 2 together. But yeah, that was just. I mean, the music's amazing. I mean, when you, I mean, the guy.
Well, it's always awesome. It's always a fun, and it's kind of funny too, right? Because I feel like this movie, along with like we did a lot of the fantasy / D&D-esque movies last year.
Yeah.
And those are things that we kind of grew up with that we were always told, like that's the stuff that's going to ruin us. And we turned out just fine. But at the same time, it's always cool. Like when you have like in Crossroads, you have the character that is like, he's so good, he's got to be the devil, right? Like, I mean, no single person could be that good unless you are the devil. But I like that idea or concept because it sort of falls into that D&D realm of fantasy story making, sort of like I'm sure like in the Delta or like in the Mississippi Delta, like those sorts of tales of like legendary tales, whether they're true or not, they always tend to be really fun. Yeah. And so, I really like Crossroads, but then at the same time, we also, we leaned a little bit into like the realm of like the fantasy of like, Dragon Slayer and Beastmaster and, movies like that, Kroll, that really had our D&D, sort of like spidey senses up super high when we were younger. I always remember, I think we may have talked about this a little bit on the podcast, but I always remember being out in front of the library, underneath that big tree that was out front, and then like having like our grid paper to like create our dungeons, and then having like our character sheets and all that stuff. Like, man, that was a lot of fun. Like during the summers, and to think of it in the realm of Kroll or like Dragon Slayer, was like super cool. And actually, speaking of, I meant to. I guess next time you're here, or we're in the same video store space. But I did get some materials from Beastmaster that I thought were like pretty cool. Like they're like overseas materials.
Really?
But I have to show you that. I have to show you that next time you kind of come through because it's pretty cool. Like I had bought some stuff off of a guy online, and he offered it up, and because he was like, well, I'll throw it in there if you want to, whatever. And I was like, yeah. I was like, sure, let's do that. And it was kind of neat seeing these like promo materials that are just kind of stuff that we wouldn't normally see. But I guess if we actually had owned a video store, like we probably would have seen some of those promotional materials.
Right.
So that was kind of cool to see. I guess we kind of did some of our classic horror. We've always kind of been we've always been sort of horror nuts. But one of the ones that kind of stood out to me, or at least one or two of the ones from last year that I thought were kind of fun to revisit because it's been a good minute, was Johnny Dangerously. I thought was one of them that I hadn't really thought about that movie in such a long time. And I know we talked about that being a reason why we need the video store, because like it's not streaming anywhere, and you kind of have to have a physical copy in order to watch it. It's very hard to get a hold of. But yeah, just thinking, I think, what was it? I was seeing Michael Keaton in something not too long ago, and I was just like, man, Michael Keaton like looks like he never ages, but also is such a good actor, and it's kind of a bummer that we don't have like those Johnny Dangerously, sorts of movies anymore. Or I don't know, like it'd be fun if we could bring back some of those sorts of movies. And I would imagine the only place you would probably get something like that is in the video store. I couldn't imagine something like this being released in theaters, and having like a big draw or audience, that's just not really a thing anymore,
Yeah. He I guess I realize he's quietly been one of like my favorite actors over time, and it started with, and this is one of those, like, when we talked about it at the time, this was probably one of those movies that if mom and dad had been sitting there watching it with us, it'd be like, wait a minute, why are you shouldn't be watching this, because some of the jokes were a bit adult, and there was
it's funny. What was it?
It was testicles and you. I mean, it just always. Yeah. I don't know why that stuck with me as a teen. I thought that shit was hilarious.
Well, because we had to watch some of those, some of those sorts of videos in school, and they're always awkward. So like, it felt. Now that you say it that way, especially like when it was on the 16 millimeter and they're watching the film,
I guess that was like a bad health class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because Johnny Dangerously, the more I think about it, it actually kind of reminds me a little bit of like an episode of The Simpsons, where like they have like those characters, that are like, your testicles and and it's like, he's like, you maybe remember me from other films, such as, this or that, or, what's happening to my body, sort of thing.
Yeah,
and then, but like even the characters and stuff, they were so over the top, with regards of like how they would act. And so like, it's funny because it wasn't like, they weren't necessarily it wasn't a parody of anything, but that style of comedy was almost like at the level of like an Airplane, where it's or Naked Gun, I think, like very, very goofy and over the top, but at the same time, like, I don't know, like I said, they're not really parodying. There's no parody of a movie that they're making fun of. They're just having goofy fun with it, and I think that was like, man, just growing up with those sorts of movies and that style of comedy and humor, like the comedic timing and stuff like that, I think like really identified or helped us identify a style for us, right? Like a comedic style for us, which I think kind of leads to your personality. So yeah, I think, Johnny Dangerously was definitely, one of those fun ones. It kind of made me think of Mr. Mom. I don't know if we had talked about that when we were talking about Johnny Dangerously, but I really like Mr. Mom, even though it's like, I don't even know where that would fall nowadays, like, because it's kind of, I mean, just the thought that like, well, what do you mean only one parent is working nowadays? It's like, how do you even live if you don't have both parents working? Like that seems completely completely like just unreasonable.
It's out of the question these days.
Yeah. And so to make a movie based on the fact that like, oh no, the breadwinner has lost a job and like now he has to be the mom. It's just like, man, like that wasn't that long ago to make a movie like that. But again, movie holds up and is carried really well because of Michael Keaton. Such a good, like, I don't know, such a good character actor, even though like, he's been in some serious stuff and he's always been pretty good, but I don't know. Maybe we have to look at his catalog and see if that's someone that we may need to resurrect in season 3. See if there's a couple of, the Mr. Moms or what was the other one? Gung Ho was another one. Yeah.
Beetlejuice, obviously.
Oh yeah. But yeah, there's like everything in between. He's done such quite a bit, and there was a lot during the video store era. I remember I can't remember the name of it, but I know there was like a drama one where I think he plays like maybe a mental patient or something, like he's in a mental institution or something like that, I want to say. But yeah, like you were saying, or like Batman, movies that. Yeah,
Batman,
yeah.
Of course,
I mean,
forget Batman.
Yeah, I feel like, maybe something we will do this year is like maybe we need to isolate particular, actors and things that we've talked about. But I don't know. Was there any on your list of movies that we covered that, like I said, we were I think we covered everything from older movies that we grew up with. And I remember I introduced you to The Raid this past year because I did want to slip in a few more somewhat current. That movie's like almost like 10 years, if not a little bit older than 10 years old, I think 10 plus, maybe closer to 15. But I don't know. Was there anything that stood out to you last year?
Well, I was going to say, I was kind of looking at the list. I was going to bring up The Raid because of all the, I think we did about 14 episodes this season. You and me, not counting you and Denise.
Yeah.
Out of the 14, there were 2 that I was like, that were first time watches. Like, The Raid was obviously the one. And then, funny enough, The Phantasm, I never watched from beginning to end.
Oh,
it was all like the bits and pieces. So to finally sit down and watch The Phantasm, or just, Phantasm, don't insult. I enjoyed both of those. They were pleasant surprises. It was kind of, I mean, if I had to put one over the other, The Raid, because I'm big on action.
Right.
That blew my mind, dude. That movie was, still thanking you for that one. Cause that was that was an amazing piece of filming. You know, the cinematography and that, and the fight scenes, the sequences were just. I mean, I want to go watch it again. Actually, now that I'm talking about it, so
yeah,
I would rewatch that regularly just because that was amazing.
And it's funny because that in itself is like a callback to some of the movies that I grew up with in high school. That I think after you left to go to the military, and I was starting off high school, and I had I had some buddies that I had become friends with, and my one friend who had he had moved here from Hong Kong, and his parents I guess they had moved to the Valley for like a job, I'm sure at the hospital or something, but he was the one that introduced me to a lot of Hong Kong cinema that I had it was like this untapped like striking gold or oil or something where it's just like, what is this? I've never heard of this. And why do the video stores not have a lot of this? Or it's something you kind of have to ask for specifically. And, I feel like The Raid was kind of like it was almost like inspired by those movies of that era and almost like a new form of it, because now like technology and things are so much better now that allows for more like lighter cameras and better action sequences, because you can do more with without having to carry around a big old honkin' 35 millimeter camera that's got film in it, when you can do it like handheld. And there were so many shots in that movie, The Raid, where they really like take advantage of that, where they're on motorcycles or in the backseat of a car fighting. And it's just like, in your face action is just like intense, but like intensely good, like just which does make me kind of think that maybe something we should revisit, or something we should visit this year as like maybe a callback to like maybe doing the family tree of like where like The Raid came from. But I know I want to say that there have been some issues of movies that are like the John Woo sorts of movies. So like The Killer and what's the other one? The other big one. There's like The Killer and I'll have to think of it here in a minute. But I remember I saw that they were released in theaters, because I want to say that they were these are like new 4K restorations of these movies.
Right.
And like that's where the idea of like gun kata, and these things where it's just like ridiculous gunplay, but at the same time, like, why not? Like, the idea, what was it? The whip.
It's a movie.
Yeah. It's the whipping motion when you're shooting the gun, and you're kind of doing it almost like the Old West. And it like really doesn't, if anything, you'd probably shoot yourself in the face, but, it looks cool on film, and I feel like that's where a lot of that originated. So yeah, maybe we need to revisit some Hong Kong cinema this year, like some of those 80s. But that also like kind of goes back to like also the Jackie Chan like era, of like Rumble in the Bronx, movies like that, like Police Story, where it's just like insanely good stunts and actions.
Yeah, just the martial arts part of it, not so much the gun.
Yeah.
Like Jackie Chan was just very, all hands, and I think Jackie Chan definitely kind of got me. He reignited the flame, because I know I had a love for Bruce Lee way back, but I mean, South Texas, we weren't really. There wasn't a lot of that. I mean, there was a lot of the new release popular stuff that was out in the movie theaters. We weren't getting a whole lot of Bruce Lee shit down there. That was like the aisle where kind of like some of the, well, obviously like where the Theo Eddies.
Right.
There were some that like. You had to know somebody who was already into that, because we wouldn't venture out. Mom and dad would keep us by the big wall, the new release stuff. A lot of that was right out of theaters, and then we'd either go to video games, and then the cheaper stuff was it wasn't international stuff. It was just like the older like like Star Wars, because it was still popular, but it was not considered new release anymore. So we definitely got deprived of a lot of good martial arts stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that, yeah, there's definitely that whole genre needs, you know, we could do a whole season on that.
Well, and I think that is something that you and I talked about. It was like, maybe we do need to go back to our roots a little bit, which is like the impressive amount of ninja movies that were there during our era, right? Which, like you're speaking to, I think those ended up being the, you know, when we would go to the video store and if we wanted a new release and the new release was checked out, then it's like, well, I guess we're going to have to like pull something. So we might as well find something that looks cool. and it's kind of funny because I guess mom and dad were okay with us pulling ninja movies because it's like, oh, how bad could that be, right? If there's a ninja on the cover, it should be fine. Like, I'm sure. I'm like, what's it going to hurt? And
yeah.
And so we would almost like, those were the what was it? Like, those would be the ones like 2 for $5 or something, like or 2 rentals for $5, or sometimes even like what was it? Like sometimes like 2 for $3 or something, like 2 for $3 or something, like $1.50 each or whatever. And so like that's how we got into a lot of that. So like, yeah, I think, you know, I know we did that a little bit in the first season where we watched like American Ninja, but I think it's time like we go back to our roots, right? Of like Enter the Ninja, Revenge of the Ninja, Ninja the Domination. I mean, there's just
I was laughing just thinking, I was like, we should show mom a picture of the American Ninja poster and see if she remembers that as many times as we rented that fucking thing.
That's, you know, that's not a bad idea.
I'm curious to see if she remembers. I would like to hear the story if she remembers our obsession with ninjas.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you know, that would be funny because, yeah, I would imagine there's so many. There has to be like one of those ninja outfits that she made for us somewhere, just in a box or something somewhere, because she made them so many times. It was like, why don't you just use the one from last year? It's like, I don't know. It's like, just make me another one, you know? And
we started to get long and grow and out, you know, when they look like water, you know, like, you know, what did they call it? Like the jeans that were like,
high waters. Yeah.
High waters. Yeah. We couldn't be high water ninjas.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, we're
supposed to look cool. Like,
yeah. We can't be assassins when you can see our white socks.
Yeah.
You know, it will, you know, it'll give us away from like a quarter mile.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 So I feel like, we do need to revisit like some of the things, the ninja movies that we kind of grew up with. But I feel like there's the entire, like, obviously the entire, catalog of anything on almost everything that's like Canon Films, right? And you can go on for days, you know, looking at the types of movies that are there. But it's kind of funny because I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about like horror action movies, and the number 2 movie on their list was Cobra with like Sylvester Stallone. You know,
Sylvester Stallone?
Yeah, the one where he's holding the gun or whatever. And I was like, wait,
the badass car and pizza.
Yeah. And I was like, wait a minute, what? And then they were like, yeah, they considered it a horror movie because I guess like the main dude is like a cult leader, and I guess he's like has some sort of like it's almost like a mishmash of like Silent Rage, but with like Sylvester Stallone in action. I was like, wait, what? I was like, I'm pretty confident I've seen Cobra, but I don't remember what they're talking about. So I was like, oh, well, maybe I need to add that to the list. Cause like, if we're talking about like iconic, like movie posters of the video store era, like Cobra is like pretty high up on that list, you know, like,
that
was
Stallone. He was I think he's holding, or he has like the
Uzis maybe, or
there's something, but they're like in a shoulder holsters.
Oh yeah.
And he's got the dark sunglasses. I think he's got a toothpick, you know.
Yeah. And it's like
shit, we have to check that out again.
Yeah. And what is it? It's something like it's got like this real ominous, like sort of, catchphrase or something. But, it's just kind of funny because they were talking about it and they were like, yeah, you know, like, you know, they're talking about like the premise of it, and I was like, wait, what? I was like, I don't remember any of that. Like that, maybe that is true, but I guess I don't know, maybe not. But or maybe that's not what I remember, right? I guess we just remember like, oh, it has Sylvester Stallone, so I'm sure it's fine. Like it's just gonna be an action movie. But Movies like that, movies like Bloodsport,
Oh yeah, Bloodsport. Yep.
like these essential canon films. I think we're gonna have to really dig into the canon catalog. And I've got a whole book, just on canon films, and it's volume 1 of 1980 through 1984. And that's only that's only 4 years, right? And that's not even the good stuff. Like that's like your Hercules and your Missing in Action and like early Enter the Ninja and stuff like that. But and the original Death Wish. But then like everything after 84 is like Death Wish 2, Death Wish 3, Death Wish 4, and then there was like Missing in Action 2, Missing in Action 3, and then there's like Delta Force 2, like Delta Force 3, like they just everything after 84, which is like prime real estate for us as far as like our headspace. I mean, that's where they really like we were the generation of almost like sequels of anything, That's like when House 2 came out, the second story, and then there was House 3, and like we were so inundated with like the era of like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think it definitely. I mean, I'm sure there's a large chunk of those were just cash grabs off the success of the originals,
right?
But we did get some good sequels.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, I think that would be a cool little project to just dig out the good ones,
right?
Because I mean, there's plenty of sequels that were just like, hey, like you said, Delta Force did good. Let's make another one. Sometimes you just they and I guess being that it's canon, I mean, I'm sure they didn't put a whole lot of time into the story. They were just like, they just need to pump something out,
Yeah. Well, but I think, I think even and I think we've said on a couple of episodes, right? I think the difference though is like, while they were cash grabs, they were done with like a lot more care than they were like nowadays. Like the intention was never for those movies to be like corny or B quality movies. It was really more like make it on a budget, get it done, and then let's go on to the next one. And so like everybody that put their effort into it, put like their best effort into it. And I feel like nowadays you get these movies, that it's like what is it, like
Sharknado?
Yeah, like yeah, exactly. Sharknado, where like they're going out of their way to try to make something that they know is gonna be goofy, whereas like American Ninja had like American Ninja 2, 3, 4. There may have been a fifth one too. I think the last one has like Pat Morita, if I'm not mistaken. And like, so like those movies, as corny as they are still like good because they were done by people that actually like, they cared about what they were doing. They wanted to do the best they could. And so really it was just a matter of like, do we have the time and the resources to do all this? And it's like, well, doesn't matter. We should do it anyways.
Yeah. No, you're right. I guess, I mean, we're getting their best effort. I mean, I think at the time they didn't know they were B movies. Mm-hmm. At the time, that was top shit for us. That was grade A.
Yeah.
It was in the 80s. They were in their time.
Right.
The whole B movie, B actress, B actor, that all came later as we started to kind of be like, man, that shit was pretty corny and cheesy. So at the time, it was great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now that you say it, yeah.
I think as the blockbuster solidified itself, and it's like, like if it's, you had movies like Star Wars or whatever that was executed at a much higher level because they wanted to, or people wanted to invest and put the effort into those things. And Canon was like, that all sounds great, but like we have like 1/16 of that budget. So what can I get? What can I get for that? Like, and I think that those people problem solved as best as they could, going like, well, if that's my budget, then that's my budget. If we're going to do anything with spaceships or whatever, like it's going to be passable to get things moving along. Nobody said anything about quality. Like you just said you needed it done, and that's what got done. And so I feel like that's what I really love about those movies. So yeah, I feel like there's a whole section there that we're going to have to revisit in that sort of the box of canon, But I know something else we had talked about too is I know we wanted to try doing a serial series or Saturday serial series. And what we were talking about was like we should revisit some of our other favorites, which is like I think one of the ones that I called out was like Transformers the movie. Because man, that movie is pretty epic, and I haven't seen it in a really long time, and I have this like I guess I'm kind of building it up in my head that it's still going to be awesome, but I guess we'll see when we revisit it. But man, there's movies like there was like Transformers the movie, there was G.I. Joe the movie.
G.I. Joe. Yeah.
There was like Heavy Metal, the anthology series,
Wizards.
Wizards was another one. The Secret of Nim, like these movies that
oh my god, yeah, that one.
Like
I forgot about that one. Secret of Nim.
I
mean, are you talking just animated or like would the Dark Crystal fall under that?
I think it would kind of fall.
That was Muppets.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, oh man, I haven't thought of that one. Also, in a minute.
Yeah.
Those could be some really and it's funny because we're that generation that grew up with those things where it's like, oh, it's Muppets and it's animated, should be fine. You guys can watch that, and like. Super dark subject matters. I mean, hell, even Transformers, surprisingly, like very dark for a movie like that. That's supposed to be about toys. I feel like it would be fun to kind of add to our series of a Saturday morning serial series where we watch some of these. And I think you're right. I think like. The Dark Crystal falls in there because, they're Muppets. But even like a movie like Labyrinth that does have like some puppets in there. And they did use some Henson puppetry in there, and that had David Bowie, and, it's kind of a musical and stuff like that. But, those could maybe also qualify under like a Saturday serial, sort of series.
Do you remember a movie called Watership Down?
Yeah.
That was a dark
bunnies.
fucking movie. Yeah, the bunnies. Yeah, the rabbits trying to just. Yeah, I was trying to remember. It took me forever to remember. I was like, no, it's not Secret of Nim because that's mice and rats. I was like, I know there was one with rabbits, with bunnies. It took me a while to remember what it was, but I finally, and I had it in as you started talking about it. I was like, yeah, I need to bring that up because I think that's one that we need to rewatch that as adults and
cool because that's the one about. That's one about like they have like rabies or something, right? Like it's super dark.
I remember it messing with my head because I was like, this isn't. It definitely wasn't Bugs Bunny. That's for damn sure.
Right. Well, and that was that is definitely like we grew up very hardened about like learning about death and like and I think I had mentioned I had mentioned I think I mentioned it to you. It's like I when we bought this house and I noticed that there were like, feral cats and we see possums and raccoons, like in our backyard area or whatever. And, I had told Denise, I was like, I ended up building like an animal shelter for those animals because of movies like The Secret of Nim or like Watership Down, because I was like, in my mind, these animals still do talk to each other and they have like the worst conditions against them and like everything is against them. And like, I was like, man, I got to at least build a shelter for like when it gets like, we recently had our freeze here in January where, it was down to like almost, I think like -3 below. And I built like a shelter, with like hay and stuff in it just to make sure the animals had somewhere to go. And she was like, or Denise was, like, oh, it's really nice of you. It's like, it's guilt. It's guilt because of movies that we saw that I feel like, the movie, the Secret of Nim and things like that. It's like, what if this kid has like tuberculosis? And I was like, I don't think like rats have that or possums, but whatever. I still built the shelter, but yeah, those movies were definitely like a mind fuck for sure, without a doubt.
Oh yeah, which means we should probably revisit them.
Yeah. I think there's like a pretty good little sliver of movies here that we can definitely get into, and I mean, obviously, we'll the horror catalog just speaks for itself. Like we'll always have that That's almost like an endless.
We'll never run out of that.
Yeah, that's almost like an endless well of just like good movies that we can grab in there. But yeah, I'll have to dig around to see if there's like a couple of older classics in there that we haven't seen in a minute, or there might be a couple of thrillers. There's a couple I can think of that come to mind that I'm just like, oh man, I haven't seen that in a minute. That would be worth revisiting. But we'll pick up on some of those as we sort of pick up the year. But I think we got a couple things that we've been thinking about. I think a couple things that we have sort of lined up. I guess in outside of our video store, in the real world, I guess you could say as well too. We did the Video Crypt last fall in October at the Texas Theater, and that was like another huge success. That was our 5th year of doing it. This year, this summer, I'll be teaming up with Chad and Vega to get the Video Crypt set up in Denton, which is north of Dallas. But I believe we're doing a 2-week stay at Rubber Gloves, which is like it's sort of like an indie music sort of venue. It's not like a big arena venue. It's your smaller style type venue. It's specifically designed, I think, for musicians, because there's a big music scene in Denton, as the university has like a big music program there, and so like bands will rehearse there, and then there's like a stage for them to play, and we're going to be set up in one of the spaces that I guess they're going to let us use in the summer. So we'll have a 2-week setup there.
Nice.
So we're preparing for that as we speak. So that will be something that people can look forward to in this new year. Another thing that I'm pretty close to, pretty much, if not almost done with it, just putting a little bit of final touches on it. But I know I've talked about doing a rental space out of my office in the backyard, and over the holiday break, when we were all very busy doing our projects, I was able to set up a little bit of what I wanted to do to expand the space for a rental. And so it's just about done, but I think I was going to wait until more of the spring to basically open that up to people that are in the local area that may want to rent some movies from both you and I. I guess we can make recommendations, because we will have a top shelf video shelf, and those will be our movies that we have recommended. And nice. So people will be able to rent those if they would like, or, they can always make, or I can always make suggestions for them, but that will be a somewhat obviously limited to people that are in the local area. And also you would have to sign up for a membership and things like that. I'm going to kind of get all those things set up as well too, but it'll be starting off small, like a small community based sort of setup for us. And then, probably start with a couple people that I know, or if you're a listener of the show, we can do that. And then, there'll be a small little fee to rent, but I'll probably put that money towards some sort of, charity or something. Like we might donate any funds that we actually make from video rentals to like the local, like, animal shelter, or the Dallas SPCA, or one of those places that, works with like animals and things like that. So still working out those details. Cool. Yeah. But yeah, I think we've talked about a few other projects. I think we're actually going to, try to get a couple things in a real store at some point here. So maybe we can get some, a little bit of merch, nothing too crazy, but we can do, a few, stickers and buttons. I think the one thing that I mentioned to you that I'm kind of working on is I'm trying to work on some, movie dice, which will help you determine if you can't figure out what you want to watch for a given night. You can just buy one of our dice and roll it, and let the fate of the rolling of the dice determine the genre. And then you can that way you're a little more narrowed down on which genre you want to watch, and then you have to pick something from there. Right now I'm working on a 6-sided die for that. And then if things work out, I'll try to make a 20-sided die with a lot of options. Maybe not too many. Maybe I'll have to scale it back to a 10-sided die. We'll see where it goes. Yeah. But
lots of options in dice these days.
Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah. Anything else you're looking forward to in the new year? Do you have one that you're kind of saving in your back pocket you just don't want to mention yet and kind of spring it on to me later? Or
Well, not. I wouldn't say keep in my back pocket. I know that there was a couple. I know we didn't get it. We kind of got we got wrapped up in we opted for a good span there of we kind of hit up the D&D fantasy stuff, and then we went into the Halloween horror stuff. So end of year went a little wonky for us. We got busy with your job, my job, mom's shoulder surgery, which went well, by the way.
Yep.
So there was a lot of things at the end of the year because I know, like in the beginning of the year, I had talked about wanting to try to get some space movies in. Never got around to it. I mean, maybe Kroll technically.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But so yeah, I mean, I guess I'll go ahead and I checked the block, but there's a couple that I still want to try to get in. Time Bandits or or Space Odyssey, 2001, Space Odyssey.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was going to be more of a touch on the movie and then just kind of talk about our thoughts on the creation of man and the universe.
Yeah.
That might be a long ass fucking podcast, but it's I don't know. That movie's always intrigued me.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I know we've already kind of got some stuff in the shoot that we kind of already want to, we already kind of wrapping some ideas around, which I like. So I mean, we'll get some eventually. I mean, as long as this, this little side project of ours, the podcast it's fun. We get to catch up. We're making up for a lot of lost time that life kind of took from us. As far as connecting and doing something together, and so as long as the internet's still working and, we got working computers, which again, that was another reason we were out for a while. My computer was down for several months and, I'm opting for I opted for the, troubleshoot, try to fix it, with my other son, rather than just get another one. So that kind of delayed us here, but, it's we'll still keep doing this as long as, till we get bored, but I don't think we will.
No,
I don't think we will.
I like movies and I like video store. I like video store talk. So I don't see it getting old anytime soon. So as long as,
no, not at all.
As long as other people are digging it too. I mean, even if they're not, and we're only recording this for us, that's fine just as well. But I am kind of looking forward to a couple things, this year as well too. We'll see how, with the Video Crypt and then the actual rental store and then some of these other side projects, it would be nice to kind of build up a couple things, and we're already into our third year, or I guess you'd say our third season, of recording and I mean, it has been a lot of fun to revisit a lot of these movies, even though, there's lots of really good current movies, and I know Denise and I tend to lean in that direction when we do our Film to Table podcast. And I think that's mostly just because that's normally what we do is if we go watch a movie, we talk about it on the way home and it's like, well, let's just record it. So that's what that has kind of been. So those movies tend to skew a little bit more in the more current release or new release, I guess you could say, section, like coming to video soon, sort of releases. But I think, I think we're going to revisit a couple things there and, maybe we do need to do another cross episode like we did, in the first season, with a couple of those.
Yeah. I'm down. I can throw some food ideas and then she can jump over here.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess if you like what you're listening to and you want to find out more or hear some older episodes, we got, 2 seasons prior if you want to try to catch up. But you can go to topshelfvideo.com, and that is our website for us, our where you can find our episodes. But you can also find our episodes on pretty much most of the big streaming platforms. So your Apples, your Spotify's, Amazon, all that stuff, YouTube, you can find us on there. But yeah, we're on most of the big outlets, I guess you could say, the podcasting outlets. You can email us at topshelfvideo podcast@gmail.com. You can throw us any suggestions, thoughts or feedback, critique, things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
That's always it's always good, good or bad, no matter what you guys have to say. We're always kind of open. That's part of being a video store clerk, right? It's like you gotta take all the feedback, good and bad, and try to do something with it. And yeah, we're you can find us on Instagram. That's usually where we link most of our episode links and whatnot. But yeah, you can leave a review. You can subscribe, on any of those platforms. It's helpful for us. We look at the metrics and, we've had a nice little, I think we have a small audience, but, if we keep doing this, maybe it'll grow over time. And if people like what we're offering up or suggesting, we're always open to hear what else you would like to hear us talk about. We're not necessarily experts in any particular thing, but I feel I would say we having met other people with similar likes as far as like movies and things that we're kind of grown up with, or just things that introduce people to other avenues of exploration, because the algorithm, like on your Netflixes and your your Tubies or whatever, like they'll steer you into one direction. But I think like when you hear it from somebody's like personal opinion, I think that makes a huge difference, and that can lead you down a rabbit hole of a whole different genre that you weren't not even aware of, like your Raids, or Hard Boiled is the movie I was thinking about earlier. The John Woo movie with the babies out the window, and crazy over the topness. But yeah, it's like
right.
Some people may have never even heard of that, and then the video store introduces you to those sorts of movies. And so, if we can help do that, that would be awesome. So yeah, let us know what you think. And yeah, I guess it's time to start restocking a lot of shelves. So that we've kind of let things get a little out of control with regards to like making sure our shelves are nice and tidy and floors are cleaned and everything. We haven't hired the best staff. We have a staff, but you work with what you can get. So.
Oh yeah, yep.
But all right. Well, I guess if I'll sweep up out front. It looks like we have to even clean out outside on the sidewalk in front of the door. It's a bit of a mess out there too. If I want to I can get all that. If you want to bust out the vacuum cleaner and kind of get things going, I think we need to get the video store looking as good as we can for season 3. I think
oh yeah. There's an overflow of videotapes in the return bin.
Yep.
Gotta rewind.
Yep. There's a lot of work to be done. But all right. Well then. Yep. I guess we will catch everybody at the next work shift.
All right.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Later.
All right.
Bye.